I believe that 2018-19 would not have been the right time to start a guilt-free ice cream brand. The momentum picked up, the awareness came after COVID. People became more health conscious, people became more aware about what's going in their stomach. Instamart rejected me. They were very interested in launching Apsara on quick commerce, but not GoZero. How you fight for the right 0.1% equity when you're raising funds. You should be save as much as you can during the initial negotiations. Now it's become second nature. So now if you ask me to write a LinkedIn post, I will not have to think a lot. One or two good ideas. Of course, I use our dear friend Claude and Chat GPT to help me, script it in a nice way. One of the biggest compliments I had was during Shark Tank when I was pitching, and Kunal from Titan remarked that, "Oh, I follow you on LinkedIn." So even before my pitch, people knew about the founder and about the brand.
Hi everyone, welcome to the first episode of Brick by Brick in 2026. We have a special founder with us, Kiran Shah, first founder that I've known since my college days and ended up testing him despite knowing his college avatar. So very, very special founder. And what he's built in just the last 4 years is something remarkable. Zero journey started around 4 years back, and fast forward to today, it's the leading guilt-free ice cream brand in India. We are trying to unpack the entire journey in this episode. So I'm just going to dive right in. First of all, thanks for joining us, Kiran.
Thanks, Hari. And I know our acquaintance goes back a long, long way. And had I known back then that the first check for GoZero would come from you, I would have made more attempts to stay in touch.
No, thank you for those words. And for the audience, if you have any question, please use the Q&A tab. I've set aside 15 minutes for that. The real impact of these sessions is in the Q&A. So Kiran, let's start with the founding moment. Everyone knows that you're from the Apsara family. So what drove the decision making? How did you find guilt-free ice cream as a compelling market opportunity? That's part A of the question. And the second thing that many of them wouldn't know is you were probably the fourth or fifth guilt-free ice cream brand to enter the segment. So what gave you the confidence that you could pull it off, being not the first, not the second, maybe the fourth or fifth?
So I think part one of the question is actually, why did I leave the family business, which was kind of doing very well, and start GoZero? And I think this is something which a lot of people who are, let's say, the second or the third generation in family businesses, in my case, I was a second generation, have their moment of dilemma that, do I need to continue with the family business, or am I better off, starting something independently? So growing up, the household was always about ice creams and food in general, right? Because at that point of time, Apsara was not just about ice cream, but also about food. So the plan was always to join the family business at some point of time. Of course, after the last trimester at IIM Lucknow, I was contemplating whether I should, take up a job opportunity or, straight away join the family business. We were, in fact, me and my father were exploring some manufacturing unit just next to the Naturals manufacturing unit in Bombay. So it was that close to me joining the family business right after graduating from IML. But then, as luck would have it, I landed the day zero offer for marketing, which was at PNG. And also it was like a global profile. So it was based out of Singapore, and it was a core marketing profile, unlike a lot of other marketing companies which visit campus, where you have to start as the sales trainee, and then you kind of, after a year or two, go into core brand management. Plus it was a global profile, so it was kind of an opportunity which was too good for me to resist. So I kept that plan of joining the family business on the back burner for around 3 years. So I went to Singapore in 2011, worked on some really iconic brands, Olay to begin with, the leading skincare brand at that time, then Vicks, which is of course in one of the iconic brands in India, and Gillette. And 2014, I came back to India and joined the family business, which was at that point of time just one parlor. right? So one store. And then we scaled to 100 stores, and just before the pandemic we opened our 100th store, right? So it was kind of a journey where in around 5 years, 5 or 6 years, completely bootstrapped, just a little bit of debt for setting up the plant, we were able to scale from that one store to 100 stores. And then just the pandemic struck, and there was 2-3 months of struggling around that, how to figure out. And then a couple of things happened during the pandemic. One was, of course, because the family business was so heavily dependent on the parlor model and franchising. It means that post COVID, when retail footfall came down, secondly, the ROI on franchise stores started going down. The interest in opening more franchisees kind of diminished. And at that point of time, I just had a chat with the family saying that I think from here on, we've cracked the product. There's a lot of brand love, but the path from here on will be that we need to open more stores. Of course, looking at other options as well from a channel point of view. But to do that, we will need to raise capital. There was this one moment I remember, like all of us, all the male members, sitting down in the living room and having a very tough conversation around why do we want to give equity to outsiders? This has been a family business for almost 50 years, exactly 50 years when this conversation happened. And then I tried my best to convince because I knew this was a really good product, and our nearest competitor was doing 7 times more revenue. That's how much gap there was for us to kind of uncover. But things did not pan out, and I think the call I made at that point of time was, having spent almost 8 years in the ice cream industry, understanding supply chain, understanding product development, understanding how to set up and scale retail, understanding how to scale food delivery. That would become quite big by then. Either that, I think the recipe and the ingredients for me to take another crack at another ice cream brand is right, and I can do this with kind of the freedom which I will have when I am kind of doing it on my own and the family pressure is not there. So I think that was the time I decided, okay, and I took the right moment. I did not want the family to feel that, we are just kind of doing it in the wrong way. So let the brand complete 50 years. We celebrated it. We did a lot of PR around it. And then I said, okay, now I think it's time for me to start out and branch out on my own. So December 21 is when I kind of formally exited the family business. And of course, having done ice cream for 8 years, I wanted to do something in ice creams only, but did not want to do me too. Like I did not want to do another ice cream just very similar to what the family business was or any other. So I looked around, and before that, actually, to be very honest, I had not really heard too much about Better For You ice creams. So as you mentioned, so we were not even the 4th or 5th. We were actually the 6th brand to launch. There are 5 other brands which had launched in this call it healthy, call it guilt-free segment, but they were so small that had never come under in my radar, because I was looking at, let's say, the Naturals or the Baskin Robbins or the bigger players. Now, because my mind is open and I'm looking at wide spaces and opportunities, now suddenly I realize that there is this handful of brands which are actually operating in this low calorie, high protein, low sugar, zero sugar space. Then did a bit more secondary research. I think the concept was very popular in US with brands like Halo Top doing really well there. But it was not very popular at that point of time, 21. But I did see some indicators. So, for example, I believe that 2018-19 would not have been the right time to start a guilt-free ice cream brand, or in general any guilt-free food brand. The momentum picked up, the awareness came after COVID. So I think after COVID, first wave, second wave, people became more health conscious. People became more aware about what's going in their stomach. They kind of started doing a bit more research on ingredients like, of course, sugar, but even maida, palm oil, whatever is kind of causing them any health related issues. And because they were also not willing to compromise on indulgence, right? So at the end of the day, you still want to have your ice cream or your full sweet or a full indulgent desserts. So I think that was the white space I kind of decided to zero in on. And of course, I started with tasting whatever brands are available in the market. So I tried the competition, I tried all possible options. And then I realized 2 things. One is, of course, you need to really crack the taste, which I felt was not up to the mark at that point of time. So there was a gap for a brand who could really crack indulgent without the consumer feeling that they are compromising on anything. And second, I also felt that there was no clear proposition at that point of time. So there was one brand who was talking about calories, there was one brand talking about protein, there was one brand talking about vegan, keto. So the proposition was not very sharp. So I think that is where and this is also one of the learnings I had during my other days. While we felt that the product was really good, why was there a 7 times delta in sales is because the brand name and the positioning of naturals was so sharp and so on point, that even a better tasting product with the brand name Apsara could not really get that kind of market share. So I think that is one thing which I also kind of learned in that journey. So I said there has to be really sharp positioning when I launched this brand. So of course, the word stood out very clearly. It has zero sugar, there is zero guilt, and if I looked at any other categories, there was always this zero word somewhere. There was zero preservatives. So I said let's name the brand with this word, which I feel in future going forward is going to really be there in this category in some form or the other. So that's how I registered GoZero. Then started with product development in Jan 22 and July 22 we launched in the market.
Super. And that was sort of our test always, especially in packaged food. Taste is all that matters. You can have the healthiest of ingredients, but it has to pass the taste test. And we looked at all the other brands as well. Apart from your capabilities, your background, that was, the critical criterion in our decision making as well. So now why don't we shift gears and go to the quick commerce playbook, Kiran? I think that was probably the biggest decision that you made, which worked out perfectly in hindsight. You started really focusing on food delivery platforms, and I must acknowledge both GoZero and Farmly's role in just opening our eyes to the quick com opportunity. The two of you were the fastest, off the track. And, so tell us more about how you thought about initially focusing only on food delivery, and what were the early signs you saw that made you to, just double down and go all in on QCom?
So what I had realized was that, of course, product development, identifying the niche in guilt-free and zero sugar, but which is the channel that is going to get me the first 75 to 100 crores of top line, right? So when I joined the family business 2014, it was primarily offline. It was either Parlors or it was MTGT, right? Then came a phase after 2016 or 17 when food delivery really caught on. And even before the pandemic struck, we saw while there was 100% footfall, let's say in 2014-15, 16-17-18 onwards, the offline to online ratio started moving towards 70-30. So 30% of revenue from that store now came through food delivery. Simultaneously, there was one brand which was NIC that was completely built on Swiggy and Zomato, right? So they were doing almost 100 crores of revenue just by selling on Swiggy and Zomato. And of course, doesn't require a lot of capex. You don't have to look for shops in the high street. You can just find a good enough location for a dark store, one freezer, a little bit of inventory, and you can get started. So when I actually launched GoZero in July, quick commerce was actually not even on my mind for two reasons. One, because I had seen the proof of concept with some other brand who were doing 100 crores on Swiggy and Zomato on food delivery, but also for the fact that Instamart rejected me. So in June 22, I think Instamart was the first platform which was kind of looking at ice cream as a category on quick commerce. I think this is even before Zepto. And because I knew a lot of folks from Swiggy from my Apsara days, I spoke to them and I reached out to them. They were very interested in launching Apsara on quick commerce, but not GoZero, because they said the brand is well known. Apsara is well known. It has brand love in Bombay, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune, but nobody knows GoZero and nobody knows, guilt-free, why is it so expensive and all of that. So we will launch Apsara on quick commerce, but we will not launch GoZero. So I faced rejection in June 22. I said, screw it, let's do it our way. Let's set up our own dark stores and let's do Swiggy and Zomato. So in July, we started with around 35 to 40 dark stores in Bombay and Pune. And then we gradually scaled it to Bangalore, Hyderabad. But then we got an inbound from Zepto in November 22. And we had a conversation with them. They were very I would say they were also very hungry, like GoZero, to kind of, they were the last movers. There was always Blinkit was there, Instamart was there. So they were eager to get new brands and they were eager to kind of have a different assortment from what other platforms had. So Zepto onboarding happened in December 22. It was with very minimum assortment. I think 3 or 5 SKUs and just the top 3 cities: Bombay, Bangalore, even 2 cities, not even Delhi. And in Jan 23, we kind of started operations with Zepto. So this was not even Blinkit or Instamart; it was only Zepto. Then we kind of got a foot in the door with Blinkit. That was around April 23. Still Instamart, no conversation. I remember talking to the D2C head of Instamart then in March and April. They met all our competitors on in guilt free, but it did not meet GoZero. They said still no, you're still very small. Said fine, let's keep pushing. Someday the door will open. But then what happened in May 23 was we hit 50 lakhs in GMV on Zepto for a brand that had not even like just in the 7th or 8th month. Hitting 50 lakhs on one channel, I thought that was really something. And I think that was the time when, the switch inside me flicked that we have to double down. So I persisted with, double down on my meetings with Instamart, double down on my meetings with Blinkit, showed them the numbers from Zepto. This is what, this is the potential is. You give us 3 SKUs. Let's start small. Let's start Bombay first and see. So I think that's how that journey happened. Of course, by that time, we already had 70-80 dark stores of our own as well. So Swiggy Zomato was kind of, also, but the momentum was just too good on quick commerce in that first summer, which we saw. I realized this is the time we have to really double down. And I think from there, every season we have grown 3x to 4x on quick commerce. And now I think we have almost 55% share on quick commerce in guilt free and almost 7 to 8% share on the overall ice cream category.
Yeah, no, it's been a phenomenal journey. And I think a big part of that was also your decision to like singularly focus on that channel. Yeah. So, talk us through that, Kiran, because in Apsara, clearly you were like the parlor king, opened 100 stores and, you could have done it in your sleep. But what made you like stay away from it and just focus on QCom? Just talk through your thought process.
So there are multiple reasons. First, of course, so while Apsara was a parlor-led model, the capital had come from the franchisees, right? So the company had not put in the capital. So if I wanted to open own stores, that would have taken a lot of capital early on. So that was one. Second, the ratio of offline to online I had seen go down. So even the legacy brands like Naturals, Baskin Robbins, who had their parlors around for so long, the same store revenue was kind of dropping. And after COVID, even the landlords, they initially gave some concession on the rentals, but after COVID, everybody was, no, we want the full rental. So there would be a capex hit to open, let's say, 15-20 stores in Bombay. Plus, there would also be a lot of operational pressure due to heavy rentals early on, and we did not know, whether GoZero will kind of find traction or not. So parlor model was completely out of the equation at that point of time. The plan was to start on Swiggy and Zomato and then take it forward. And then quick commerce happened, and quick commerce kind of solved a lot of problems for you. They solved distribution. So on Swiggy and Zomato, we had to hunt for the location. We had to look for dark stores. So that would, of course, take a lot of time, but also operationally very complicated. So you had to have a big team for that. That part was solved for. The last mile delivery, of course, that was solved for. So we could focus on what we knew best, like making good quality products, and then focus single-mindedly on ensuring people are trying the products, ensuring the brand is visible. So a lot of other things which would have taken up, let's say, bandwidth from the core team were kind of then redundant, and we could then focus on scaling very quickly on quick commerce. So I think parlors definitely out of the equation. Then the question was whether to scale on Swiggy and Zomato and set up own dark stores. By the way, which is also not a bad model. So today we have around 120 dark stores, and probably by the summer season we will have around 150 dark stores. But the sheer volume which you get of the distribution on quick commerce is something we just cannot build, or would take probably years to build on your own.
No, that's fair. And I'm sure a lot of founders listening in are wondering, probably for Kiran, it was like right place, right time. Quick com was just emerging, and you caught onto it and just doubled down. But for someone who's just starting out or who's just starting their foray in QCommerce, what do you think are the top 3 things that they should focus on and get right? to crack the QCom channel?
So I generally look at it, and I get this question a lot, right? Like, what should we do? For first things first, I think you need to evaluate whether your category and your product is the right fit for quick commerce. Like, for example, not every product category is quick com from day one. Maybe after a while, once you have enough traction on other channels, you can look at quick commerce. But categories which are impulse, like ice creams, chocolates, beverages, snacks. So family, for example, snacking is like the right product to have on quick commerce. So I think if you fall in these categories, then I think it's a no-brainer for you to have quick commerce as your first channel today. Now, how you would scale, let's say how GoZero started in 22 versus if I were to start today. Instead of top 3 things, I would look at it in 3 phases. The first phase is where you get from zero revenue to, let's say, a 1 to 2 crore MRR. Now, to get to a 1 or 2 crore MRR, you cannot expand in all cities. First of all, quick commerce today will not even expand you to all cities. So maybe you pick your battleground. And inevitably it's Mumbai, Bangalore, Delhi, NCR, Hyderabad, Chennai, the major cities. Go with a very, very limited assortment. So today, for example, GoZero would have around 25 to 30 SKUs. But even while that would be available, I would only launch with 3 to 5 of the best-selling SKUs. And with a very limited geographical reach as well. So let's say the top 5 cities, because you will need to spend aggressively or disproportionately to get to that run rate of 1 to 2 crore. So I think that 0 to 1 to 2 crore is very focused, less SKUs and limited geographical presence. The next stage is when you go from 1 or 2 crores to, let's say, a 5 crore per month. Now, of course, you will need support of quick commerce platforms. It means that now the certain metrics are in your favor. Like there is good conversion, people are searching for your product, there is good repeat rate. So now quick commerce will be more amenable for you to expand to more cities and also get more assortment. So now you can expand your assortment, let's say, to 10 to 15 SKUs and go on to more cities. You can go on to the top 10 or top 15 cities of India. Again, the important parameter to watch here is what does your logistics support. So you don't want to spread yourself thin on reaching, let's say, 50 cities, but to deliver a smaller PO in a tier 1, tier 2 city, it costs you almost the same amount as the PO itself, right? So we also took a very strategic call that while, let's say, Lucknow was very lucrative and the ice cream sales were very promising there, but the logistics just did not allow us to, at the scale of below 5 crores. So that 1 to 5 crore is when you kind of actually consolidate the product channel fit which you have found for your brand. You will kind of now increase your spending as well. Third step or the third phase is now when you cross above 5 crores. At this stage now, it is more about operation, logistics and supply chain. I would say after a 5 crore MRR, 80% of it is, how is your OTIF doing? Like, are you able to supply within 3 to 4 days? Because the holding inventory on these platforms is very, very less, sometimes even less than 15 days. So how quickly you can replenish then becomes, so you need to have a really strong logistics and operation play. Second is how quickly can you look at which pin codes, which warehouses, which dark stores are kind of running low, which are the dark stores where a particular SKU is doing really well. So now it will be more of an operational supplying and logistics game. 20% is still marketing, and in fact now you would have the channel throwing back cash as well. Like above 5 crores, the channel is also kind of hoping that it would be at a CM2 positive. So channel is throwing cash. So now you have more capital from the channel to deploy in, let's say, big bet assets like a homepage banner, or do some big campaign with them. Like what we did for GoZero during the IPL was giving out free samples of the Mad Over Mango ice cream, right? So now it enables you to take those big bets. But I think the 0 to 1 and the 1 to 5 journey is very, very critical. It's very easy to get swayed away by what the platforms, generally they want the money, they want the marketing spends, they want you to go aggressive on offers. But I think and it's very tempting to kind of look at that from a cash burn point of view. But what we need to realize is we don't have unlimited capital to burn. So the choices you make for 0 to 1 crore and 1 to 5 crores are very, very important.
And, I think the other big pattern I've noticed is the brands that have done really well on QCom. I see the founders also like spending a lot of time building the relationships with each of these platforms. So could you just give the audience a sense of just the time you spend, what's the cadence of meeting with the QCom platforms, etc.?
Yeah, I think I joke with my team that Zepto moved from Bombay to Bangalore because I would visit them every alternate just to get rid of me. They won't move to Bangalore. But so as I said, getting the first foot in the door, right, is very very important. And that if quick commerce is so important, channel has to be founder first. Like the founder has to go meet the people, go meet the right people in the category team, the marketing team, sit with them, plan stuff with them. So I would say the first, I think we're in the fourth year, but even today, almost 50% of the time I am like engaging with at least the top three platforms, right? And that was almost 70 to 80% of the time in the early days. I think what that also kind of sends a soft signal to the platform that this brand is kind of willing to invest more aggressively. The founder himself or herself, is coming to our office, sitting with us, brainstorming. So I think that just kind of sends across a signal that this is a brand which is very very serious about quick commerce. So I think let's also support them.
Yeah, I can't overstate the importance of this. It has to be founder led, and I know that every minute spent, just is so important. But the only thing where I think I have a slightly different point of view, I think the lines between QCom and eCom are blurring, and we're seeing even categories that may not be impulsive, that may not seem intuitive, like XYXX, for instance, where they do so well on QCom, and so does Sleepy Cat. So I think QCom is becoming relevant across categories, but the lessons that Kiran shared, apply across categories. One thing that's top of mind for founders with respect to QCom is also this fear of increasing commissions. So what is your advice on how do you keep the commissions in check, as QCom platforms start focusing on their own profitability?
And I don't think it's only commissions, right? They will hit you from multiple directions with all their commissions, ad spends, promo burns, SOR models. The very first thing which I learned is that SOR model is the worst a founder can get onboarded. So while I do thank Zepto that they were kind of the first to let GoZero in and get a check on, but it was the SOR model. It means that I can give as much inventory to Zepto as possible, but if the payment will only come depending on the secondary offtake, right? So generally the GMV ratio is 70-60%, right? So that means that early on it's a lot of working capital hit. So while on books you might have delivered, let's say 50 lakhs worth of stock to Zepto, but if the offtake is not happening, the revenue, the cash collection will not be in tune, and after a point of time it will kind of choke your working capital, right? So very very important to understand, and now they have all sorts of workaround. They can give you cash discounts and you get payments in 3 days, 7 days. So just a lot of stuff to think through very very carefully before signing that MOU, with the platforms, because once you sign the MOU, then I think it's very difficult to change, at least for a year. So the things to keep in mind is, one, of course, what kind of purchase model are you on, the SOR model or the inventory model? Second, of course, commissions. You have to really fight for the last 1%, and I think the right analogy is how you fight for the right 0.1% equity when you're raising funds. You should be, save as much as you can during the initial negotiations. You can always have a mixed strategy. You can always balance commission negotiations with, let's say, an initial marketing spend upfront, right? So what a lot of people don't realize is, if you commit to a higher commission, that commission will come back to bite you after 6 months or 12 months, versus if you can offset that with a lower commission upfront but commit to a higher marketing spend, let's say for a 3-month or a 6-month window. Anyways, you will need that marketing to kind of scale your GMV, as you list. So I think that are some things which founders need to kind of think through. Do your homework. Be aware of what the bigger brands in the category, what kind of percentages or commissions they are giving. For example, what is an Amul giving? What's Quality Walls? What kind of margins are they giving? And use that to kind of negotiate hard. But I think at the end of the day, it's all about being patient but getting the right deal, because that's what's going to save you money in the long term, and make money, not just save money. Yeah, so I think that's something which the founder will have to lead from the front.
Yeah, I think persistence pace, and yeah, doing that benchmarking with category leaders is like an easy hack to understand what's possible. Now let's focus on content. You've used content as much as the product in building the brand. And one question that I hear from all our DSGCP founders is, where does Kiran find the time, right, for generating so much content? So yeah, why don't you tell us, how much time do you spend in a day on content, thinking about it, creating it?
So I think so content is basically storytelling in its, and at the heart of it, right? It's about, and if you're a consumer founder, if you are somebody who's building a consumer brand, I think storytelling is what you should know, and what you should be able to do. Now, content is basically putting it out there in public, right? Let's say if I am going to an investor with a pitch deck, which I haven't, but just for reference sake, I have to sell my vision, sell my story of today. I might not be making revenue, but here's the product, here's the brand, which will become 100, 200 crore brand someday, right? So there's a storytelling, and you say it with so much passion and conviction that you make the other person feel that same passion as well, right? So generally content is around that. And I started writing on LinkedIn from 2021, like even before I started GoZero. So I think I did not worry whether I'm getting likes or whether I'm getting impressions. It's only now that I am thinking of all these metrics, and calibrating my content. But I used to just write for the fun of it. I mean, you like talking about, you like sharing things which you have been doing. You like to talk about the mistakes you made, while selecting IIM Lucknow over FMS, or why did you go to Singapore, and why did you leave such a high-paying job and join the family business? What were the first 6 months at your family business where you could not even, tell your dad you are using the wrong sugar? These are all the things which you have experienced, and now just writing it out, sharing, I think that kind of builds a little bit of trust in people, reading your content as well. So it started like that. And in 22 there was no revenue, man, so it was all the time was available for content. We were doing 5-6 lakhs per month, so I had all the time in the world to write nice LinkedIn posts. But I think as I went along, as I kind of understood how LinkedIn as a platform is, so I had deactivated my Instagram account, and I was, of course, it was taking a lot of time scrolling reels mindlessly. So I had deactivated Instagram, and I was only focusing on LinkedIn. But I made it a point, I will share at least 1 or 2 good posts every week. And it will not be some random topic and just, write for the sake of it. It has to be something which has struck a deeply personal chord, at some level. It could be related to business. It could be related to my personal life. So I share my love story and how I met my wife, on LinkedIn as well. But it has to be something which you have felt very, very deeply and personally, because that's how people will connect to you. Just chasing mindless likes or writing those clickbait hooks, and they don't work. Over a period of time, people will find out who is writing authentic stuff and who is not, right? So that's how the journey started, and I think it compounds over a period of time. I was not even at 10,000 followers for almost 3 to 4 years since I started. Like at the end of 2024, I was at around 25,000 followers, and it was only after Shark Tank happened, we got some deals, some PR activities, and I think from there the momentum picked up, and now it's almost 125k followers on LinkedIn, and now it's become second nature. So now if you ask me to write a LinkedIn post, I will not have to think a lot. 1 or 2 good ideas. Of course, I use our dear friend Claude and Chat GPT to help me, script it in a nice way. I have in fact fed all my previous LinkedIn posts so that now they know the tone, the way I talk, the way I write in English, Hindi and English combined. So now it's much faster for me to churn out, good content on LinkedIn. So I think that's how it started. I have now also started an Instagram journey, and that's also doing really well. So I think that's how I've been looking at content. It doesn't have to feel a burden. Like you shouldn't have to, feel that it's a task which I have to complete at the end of the day, because otherwise you will always delegate it, and it will never come naturally to you.
And I think you missed answering, how much time do you spend thinking about and creating content? Do you have like a fixed time slot for it every day?
There is no fixed time slot, but I get a couple of hours early in the morning. I reach office earlier than most others, so I get half an hour, 1 hour in the morning. But inevitably, it's like some free time in the afternoon while going between two meetings, traveling
So
on
it's like a couple of hours a day on content, right?
maximum 2 to 3 hours.
Correct. And, would be useful to, just double click on the content strategy also. I know there was a point when we were breaking our heads over what should be the content strategy
Yeah, we still
for
do.
GoZero.
Yeah.
And somewhere I think, we were always aligned that it had to be authentic. But again, for the benefit of founders, how did you land on your content playbook? Because I've seen you, as you said, post about your personal life, sometimes it's like, just about general things, not related to your personal life and business. So how did you find your voice, and, how you decide on what you should be posting?
So again, no right or wrong answers. So what I have seen, and I've spoken to founders, and I have like few friends, like for example Shashank, who are doing a lot of founder-led content, right? And I think there is no right or wrong answer here. What I have seen is there are some brands where, let's say, for example, the companies or the brand's Instagram has far more followers than the founders. And I've seen the other way around as well. Like, for example, first couple of years or 3 years, as I said, I did not have an Instagram account of my own. Like, so whatever I did on Instagram or whatever content we were doing, it was for the company's page. But for some reason, we were never able to get that 100k 200k followers, or that one reel which crossed 1 million organically. Of course, we can put money behind it and run performance marketing ads, but I'm saying organically we were never able to crack that kind of an audience connect where people want to follow GoZero to understand what exactly is guilt free, what is low calorie, what are the different kind of sugar substitutes. This is something which I envisioned that people would follow, let's say, GoZero's Instagram page for. But then when I started my Instagram page and I started talking about the same things, me talking to the camera, me talking, I think results were much more encouraging. So we got reviews over, 100k, 200k. Suddenly, people are kind of sharing. Okay, here's a founder who's talking about, what are the side effects of sugar, what are the substitutes which GoZero is using. So I think in my case, I discovered that the personal page was doing much better in terms of reach, engagement, people coming to know about the brand, right? I think one of the biggest compliments I had was during Shark Tank when I was pitching, and Kunal from Titan just remarked that I follow you on LinkedIn. So even before my pitch, people knew about the founder and about the brand. So I think that is what I feel has worked. Content strategy, I make it a point that it revolves around 3 or 4 pillars. One is, of course, my personal journey as a founder. Second is a little bit of stuff which I strongly believe in. For example, having done an MBA from IIM Lucknow, and today I am very much kind of anti-MBA. If somebody really wants to make a career, MBA doesn't have to be the only route, right? And I write about it. I even get my IIM professors to make reels around it. So I think that is something which the Gen Zs of today and people who are for them CAT is the only way, or an MBA is the only way to build a career. I think those are the things around which I kind of make content, and then I link it with GoZero in some way so that indirect brand recall is also there.
And, one other question that I've received from our founders is on, if some of your posts or reels about, say, your personal life or this MBA topic you spoke about goes viral, do you see an immediate effect uplift in GoZero business, or how do you think about it? That's like been a common question.
No, I think there is no direct correlation. Like, we don't see any spike when suddenly some reel goes viral. But what I have seen that over a period of time, the compounding effect is there. So for example, we've seen our searches increase over a period of time, and we don't spend a lot on influencer marketing. We don't spend a lot on traditional performance marketing. Whatever we do is mainly on QCommerce or on the personal content side. So I think that but just the number of DMs I get that I tried GoZero because I saw a post by the founder, and the founder was talking very openly about either what's worked or the mistakes which he has made. So I think directly, I think there is no way to measure it. Maybe we can find a or maybe we can brainstorm with AI, but there is no direct correlation with any sales spike. But I think this is something like that long-term compounding effect.
Yeah, it is. It compounds, and
Yeah.
I completely agree. And the other popular question was on hit rate of your posts. On an average, how many posts do you do on LinkedIn in a week, and what's like the hit rate in terms of posts that get good traction? And any learnings on which posts have more traction than others?
Yeah, that's a very clear learning on anything which has a more personal angle to it. They have really worked. Like for example, there have been times when I have posted, let's say, my views on the budget or the World Cup, or I follow cricket a lot. But whenever it comes to I did not speak to my wife for 6 months because of this. Suddenly that really flies. For example. One of the learnings which I had in the family business was that in a digital economy, like there's UPI, there's card transactions, and people are moving away from cash. Why did the male members of the family have to sit at the cash counter or the galla, which is typically called? And that post really went viral, and a lot of people commented saying this is exactly what we feel or we face in our family businesses as well. So whenever there is some personal anecdote or something personal which people can relate to, that really goes viral. And today morning the LinkedIn team was here as well, and we were kind of also discussing on what kind of content the algorithm likes, or what kind of content do goes viral. They say there is no secret sauce or formula, because it is every person has his or her content strategy that will work. So I think it's about experimenting and then doubling down on what works.
Right. And, just for the benefit of founders, you've spoken about how LinkedIn has helped you with, we connected again after many years on LinkedIn, starting with that to brand building to hiring, so many different aspects. And each one of those addresses a different audience, right? So when you write on LinkedIn, who's your target audience? Do you have a target audience in mind, or is it, how do you think about it?
No, so there is no target audience in mind. I think my LinkedIn content strategy is very, very simple. It's about telling what my learnings or what goes on in my life and what's my perspective, and then just putting it out there. On some day it will be around an MBA, whether you should do it or not. On some days it will be around raising capital and how I went about raising capital for GoZero. In some day it would be around pros and cons of family businesses. Should you join a family business? Should you work for a while in corporate? So I think these are the kind of questions or areas where kind of a lot of people will relate to. And having worked for almost 18-20 years now, there is some or the other things in my life which kind of is good in LinkedIn worthy content. So I think that's it. But I think just to double click on what you said earlier, right? LinkedIn is a fantastic platform for not just just putting content and getting views or impressions, but I have hired most of my team from LinkedIn. Like barring I think 3 or 4 people which we have recruited from outside, most of, and especially my core team, the people who work very, very closely with me, are people who I have come in contact through LinkedIn, or people who have reached out to me on content. Of course, our first interaction was on LinkedIn, and that's how we got going. I met a lot of vendors on LinkedIn. So I think I just use it as a networking tool and kind of to add value to the business as well.
No, and just just want to disclose that LinkedIn is not sponsoring this podcast, but I personally have seen how founders that are active on LinkedIn, their ability to just attract the right talent and at all stages, even before they start, right? So something for everyone to consider. And I know that Kiran has a strong point of view on just founder-led branding and using LinkedIn as a tool in all these aspects. But anything you want to add to that, Kiran?
Yeah, before we wrap up this content piece, I think there are 2 very, very strong pointers which work in favor of LinkedIn, I would say probably over Instagram, for example. Especially from a founder point of view. So I think generally founders, because they have a lot of other stuff to manage as well, right? And if I am a solo founder, there is almost everything which is inevitably coming to me. A platform like LinkedIn for content is very low effort and high reward. So if I have a thought, if I'm good at writing, I can quickly scribble down something. If not, today we have AI, we can help you, generate some good posts with some good opening lines. Versus if I have to make content from Instagram, I have to take a phone, I have to record myself, do some basic editing. So I think the efforts is, slightly higher. Versus LinkedIn, you can quickly maybe 15-20 minutes and you are done, and then you can focus on other things. So I think it's a low effort high reward content platform. Secondly, what I've also seen is, while Instagram, for example, the last 90 days, I have 7 reels which have hit 1 million or plus or more. But if I look at the audience, the engagement, people who are commenting, I would say 70% of them are not the right audience for me. It's going viral on its own, and people with Instagram are. Versus the LinkedIn audience is much more curated. I would say the right TG, because not everybody has a LinkedIn account, but almost everybody has an Instagram account. So I think from a target audience perspective, also LinkedIn could be the right team. So I think there's more merit in founders looking at LinkedIn, over Instagram, is what I feel.
Interesting. And I agree with the quality and relevance of audience, 100%. So now let's move to the last section before I open it up to the audience around team, some hard questions for you. Let me just start with one of the hard questions that I had. I remember when we invested, both of us were convinced that you needed a co-founder back then, and we almost ended up hiring one, but that didn't work out. And I know a lot of founders have this, dilemma of whether they should have a co-founder or not. So how would you, help them think about this co-founder dilemma? Whether one should have a co-founder or not.
Yeah, I think most examples which I have seen in DSG and even in general are people who have known each other, either from their college days or while working together previously, and then, a common idea excites both of them together. And thirdly, of course, more importantly, both of them have very, very complementary skill sets, right? Of course, when I left the family business, I could not bring anyone together with me. So I kind of started solo. But even before, I think we met, I was always thinking that I need somebody who can kind of, complement me, because I was more of brand product. And while, you wanted somebody, maybe I would end up having a manufacturing unit or not, but you would want somebody who would be very strong with the back end, part of ice creams. So I think that part was always there in my mind. I think we came close to getting one person. Before that, I came very close to having another co-founder. But I think there's something not meant to be. And then after a while, when you reach a certain scale, then I think it's no longer a co-founder, but it's more of a CXO or a core team member. But if you want a co-founder, it has to be, let's say, within the first 6 months or a year, of starting the business, because that's where everything is being built bottoms up. I think one thing which worked in my favor was, while I was building the family business, I think practically all of the aspects were non-existent. So we did not have a plant. There was only one store. So the entire infrastructure of 100 parlors were not there. Swiggy and Zomato absolutely were not there. And a lot of changes from the product point of view. So I made a couple of trips to Italy, learned about gelato making. So I learned a lot of things firsthand. So I think once you do the entire value chain end to end, like building a plant, setting up stores, scaling it from that one store to 100 stores, you kind of understand almost all aspects, right from materials, procuring the right ingredients, establishing contact. So the contact and the network was also there. So I think it was not that difficult without a co-founder for me. But I think a lot of people who don't have that prior experience or not second time, I think for them, it's very, very important to at least have one good co-founder who complements their skill set.
Yeah, whether it's a co-founder or leadership team for that matter, right? So for the people that are in that 0 to 100 crore journey, how do you think about like the critical functions, for a consumer brand, and how one should think about hiring?
Yeah, I think for consumer, it's always finance, HR, admin. These are always the non-critical ones. So they are always outsourced. Even, for example, today, accounts and finance is outsourced, and the core team is only looking at 3 or 4 important functions, right? Of course, product development is something which is very, very critical, because we are building or making a product which doesn't have sugar, and you need to have the right balance and formulation with the substitutes which you're using. That is something which I have been doing for almost a decade now, more than a decade. So that function, the NPD function and the brand strategy stayed with me. But of course, when we launched, it was all a mess, right? So when we started with a team of 4 people, and all of them were generalists. So none of them, let's say, had a career where they did, let's say, 5-6 years in sales or 5-6 years in operations or warehousing. They were all generalists, but they were people who I had worked with. This is something which I've kind of always believed in, that your core team or somebody who's kind of going to build this with you has to be from your network, if possible, and people you know and trust. Skills can always be taught. You can always train them on certain things which are required, but that hustle attitude, understanding how to operate like a founder is very, very important. So I think that was how I got the initial 4 people, 3 of them who are still there with me today, right? And then as you scale, as the revenue hits 10 lakhs, 50 lakhs, 1 crore, 5 crore, now you are 1 plant, now you have 2 plants, now you have 3 plants, is when you start building those layers and get more specialized people to run. But again, the philosophy is the core team has to, either I have to know that person or have some very good references which I know, or in the case, and I think you can double click because he's your favorite example from GoZero, is somebody who has moonlighted with me for a while. So that I know that these...
We'll come to that. But one thing I wanted to add was Kiran said finance, etc. is not important, but it works when you have a founder like Kiran who is very obsessed about capital allocation and capital efficiency, because there are consumer founders that are not as plugged in on the numbers. In that case, you definitely need a finance person to manage costs and cash flows. So I just wanted to add that.
It was important. I didn't say it was core.
No, that's true. So GoZero is at a capital efficiency of 4x, and I would give almost all the credit to Kiran for that, for managing it with an outsourced finance team, which is like fantastic. And now just double clicking on the team, I think when I think about GoZero, one aspect that stands out is just the speed of execution. I know the speed at which you execute, Kiran, and your N-1 team obviously operates at that same speed, right? So how do you filter for that level of speed of execution? And for the audience, I would rate Kiran in the top decile in our portfolio when it comes to speed of execution. We just think about an idea and it's in motion, the same day or the next day more often than not. So how do you solve for that in your hiring? And yeah, you can also double click on your favorite method of hiring, which is like getting people to moonlight with you before you make them offers.
Yeah. No, moonlighting is only if I have never worked or known that person, previously, right? Like if you know that person, for example, I recently hired a CEO. We recently got, a CEO on board. I've known that person for almost 8 years or more than that, right? And I know the guy has vast experience in the ice cream industry, complements what I want for that role. And I have seen him work, maybe not directly, but I've observed his style of working. So I know he's the right fit. So that becomes slightly easier for me. But I think when we are operating in an industry where one, of course, there are a lot of players, right? So, for example, in the ice cream industry, there are too many players. What differentiates you is, of course, your product proposition, guilt-free, sugar, all of that. But how quickly can you innovate, and how quickly can you, keep up, serving new things to the consumers? For example, we had a brainstorming session with Blinkit in December 24, like just before the summer season was starting. And we identified a white space that duets, which are very nostalgic products, which a lot of people have in the childhood, were not there on the platform, and no incumbent kind of really thought of putting that product on QuickCommerce. And no guilt-free player also was kind of very interested. They were doing pastries and cheesecakes and a lot of other stuff, but the duet was, nobody was kind of focusing on. But the platforms were really keen that, we want this. So I said, okay, if you feel that, we can get to a certain number in terms of units, let's work on it. And within 1.5 months, we kind of launched it, first exclusive on Blinkit. And then because the numbers were so strong, everybody wanted. And now those 2 products contribute to almost 30% of our top line, right? And of course, a lot of other form factors as well. So I think it's very important that the core team is kind of up to speed, and they understand that, the DNA of this company is to turn things around very, very quickly. So you cannot understand or judge this in a 1 hour interview, or let's say maybe 2-3 rounds of interview. That can only happen once you actually work with the person, right? And if you don't have prior experience of working with that person, then you have to figure it out as you go along. So there have been cases where I have gotten people on board for 3 to 4 months. We kind of just understand that this is the person who can, just you look at the person, he understands what the founder wants. That's the kind of chemistry you kind of have, and then the decision making becomes very, very fast. So very important to have 3 or 4 such people. I was lucky to have 2 such people earlier on in the journey. But the most critical hire came, and who's kind of today leading the entire revenue, came in the towards the end of the second year of operation. Now he is a person I did not know personally, but we kind of our paths crossed working together for one of the quick commerce platforms.
No, fair. And now I just checked the time. We're out of time. Maybe a couple of quick questions. Try asking you some difficult ones before we open it up to the audience. So one of the things, the disadvantages of building in public, putting out a lot of content is that you do get stuck in controversies periodically. And I have my favorite line telling you that all publicity is, even bad publicity is good publicity, but I know how hard it must be at your end. So what has been your coping mechanism, and how do you deal with it?
Yeah, I think so once you reach a certain level in terms of followers and the number of engagements on your view on your content, there is almost no content which goes without some random person coming and trolling you, right? So I think that is something which we kind of get used to. But every once in a while, there is one piece which really blows out of proportion, right? So in the last 12 months, there have been 2 such instances. And the first instance happened a few months ago, and it got picked up by a lot of PR publications, and there was just a lot of trolling, and the kind of hate which you get on the comments as well as DM is just kind of unimaginable, right? I think your favorite message to me has been just take 3 deep breaths, and I found myself after the 4th breath, I was still kind of sweltering over the kind of comments. So I think one is I just, if there's such incident happens, I just switch off for 2 days, log off social media, because inevitably it blows over and people don't really remember a lot. And now the same people come and say, oh, amazing job on Shark Tank, and what a founder, and what, and the same people were trolling you 6 months ago. So I think one thing is you have to learn to understand the fickle nature of people on social media. But but as you rightly said, when they come with full, hammer and tongs at you, and, some trolls just go cross the line on a lot of, personal stuff as well. Just switch off for 2-3 days. Vent out all the frustration on somebody like a Hari who can, take it all and absorb it and keep batting for you, and then get ready with the next piece of content on day 4.
That gives me a good content idea for my LinkedIn post. So, the last question before we get to the audience questions, someone watching this episode, if they want to build the next GoZero, emulate Kiran, what would be the top 3 personality traits that have helped you get here?
I think there are a lot. I mean, when you look at or even analyze what makes somebody a good founder, but I would say in general, not just founder, but if you really want to do well in life, I think 3 things. One is you have to be really, really curious. The day I joined my family business, like even though I knew that ice cream is being made for 40 years before I joined, the day I joined, I asked my dad, why are we using this sugar? What is the kind of milk? And there were actually 2-3 things which we were able to correct, because I did not just take it for granted that, because the family is making ice cream for 40 years, they would know the right, stuff. So be very curious and I ask the right questions. So that's number 1. And that's a lifelong trait which you should have. The learning only stops when you die. Second is, I would say no more than you say yes. So for example, let's do quick commerce, let's do e-commerce, let's do offline, let's do parlors, let's do ice creams, let's do desserts. You cannot do everything, but say no to most of the things. Say yes to only the things which are worth your time, effort, and are really going to move the needle. So say no more than you say yes, and you'll be surprised to know that most of the things you say no to wouldn't even matter. So I think that's one thing which you have to kind of do. And third is, I think once you fail, and it's inevitable, you will fail a lot. And most founders start with failure or kind of failure for a long period of time before they kind of make that one right move and it hits out of the park. But fail fast. If you know something is, is not working, is not, not moving in the right way, don't obsess over it. Accept it. It's a failure. Fail fast, pivot faster.
No, all three excellent points, Kiran. And just on that, talking about failures, any big mistake you made in your journey that others can learn from that you
Oh
would have done
yeah, I mean,
differently?
the
Biggest, most disastrous one.
yeah, the most disasters, and I think we spent the first couple of years correcting it. Right, the brand architecture was all over the place. Because when I launched GoZero, there were four brands before us. One was doing low calorie, other was focusing on high protein, third one was focusing on vegan. So I said, let's have everything. Let's have. So we launched our packaging blue, orange, green, purple, and everything. Product was good, but it was just something which consumers, they were confused more than they were, sorted. And then we had to do those multiple rounds of brand design this, and finally understood that there's only one or two things which consumers really care about. But in doing so, we had to discard a lot of inventory, a lot of packaging material. So I think that was one mistake which I think could have been avoided in hindsight. But good, it's a good learning experience.
Yeah, you were focused on everything else. I agree. Yeah, the initial range was all over.
All over the
So,
place. Yeah.
yeah, fair enough. Let's go to the audience questions now. The first one is on, how do you launch on QCom with limited capital? When in just one city, is that even possible today?
Yeah, absolutely, it is possible. I mean, if I look at Bombay alone, or if I look at Bangalore alone, right? Almost 10 to 15 crore worth of ice cream is being consumed in one city. Now, if I even target a share of 5%, right? That's still 50 lakhs or 1 crore of revenue which I can generate from one city. Now that's a lot. If you're looking to just start on quick commerce, and if you're looking to get to a revenue run rate of 1 to 2 crores, I think the best thing you can do is launch in just one city, the best city where that category has the maximum number of people who are consuming there. And I think all the capital which you have, all the limited capital which you have, can be deployed in getting market share faster. In fact, it's very easy to gain share in a couple of cities. For example, today, while we have overall 7 to 8% market share, but if I look at, let's say, Bombay, we have close to 15% market share in the ice cream category. So in fact, it's very easy to start with one city, two cities, gain more market share with limited capital.
And there's another question on what your average order value is, and is QuickCom profitable at an operational level?
Yeah, I think today we are, in fact, in one of our board meetings, I think very recently concluded, I had made a very bold claim that if GoZero was only a quick commerce company, like if I was not doing Swiggy, Zomato, like if I would, and the modern trade, whatever we are doing, just doing quick commerce, today we would be EBITDA positive. Like forget CM2 positive, today we would be EBITDA positive. So that has come over a period of time where, let's say in year one, the total marketing spends as a percentage of revenue was around 40-45%. That came down to 38 or 39% in the second or third year, and now this year we are tracking at 30% or below, right? So while the revenue has doubled every year, and the best thing about quick commerce is all of this can be done with a very, very lean team. So I have 4 or 5 people who are running the entire QCom, including ops, marketing, and everything, while I have 10 people doing the same for Swiggy, which is 15% of the overall revenue. So yes, it's very, very possible, very much possible to build an EBITDA positive brand on quick commerce. But the playbook has to be very sharp.
And there's a related question. There's a question on how do you decide on which functions to house within GoZero and which functions to outsource, like performance marketing, content, video. How do you think about it?
I think the way we mentioned or we spoke initially, that the founder needs to make those relationships with quick commerce and be the face and do those meetings. When it comes to understanding how marketing or how performance marketing works on quick commerce, it is very, very important that the founder himself or herself learn. So I spent countless hours, weeks, months just dabbling with the dashboards. And I think the good thing about quick commerce is today you have a lot of self-serve portals where you can set up campaigns, you can understand, you can do A/B testing, you can see what's working, what's not working. Of course, at the scale of GoZero, now you have resources and people and agencies to do it. But let's say when we were just starting out, when the revenue is less than 10-15 lakhs per month, I was looking at, what campaign is working, what keywords should I bid. I used to talk to the counterparts on Blinkit, Zepto, understand, work with them together. That understanding of platform, once you have done it yourself, and then it's very, very easy to have a plus one or an N minus one, along with maybe an agency like Gobble Cube today. Once you have reached a certain scale, then you can do it with a lean and efficient team. But early on, these are the things which the founder himself or herself should learn.
We have another guilt-free founder in the audience, founder of Chini Cum. So he's asking, in the initial phase of a brand, they're building guilt-free drinks in beverages space. Where should we be spending more marketing money? Should it be in the likes of Meta, etc., or on QCom? What should the initial marketing strategy be?
I mean, if your primary channel is your own website, so in our case, it was not possible because the product is frozen, so self delivery is not possible. But if it's D2C, I think then definitely Meta. But if you're very optimistic, if you have gotten listed on all the quick commerce platforms, then it's a no-brainer that you should be spending. And I'm assuming this is very early stage as well, right? Then you should be spending on quick commerce platforms. Do a little bit of content side by side, but the performance marketing should go on quick commerce platforms.
Fair. Another interesting question is from Raja, Indian Snack House. He wants to know if you maintain price parity across QCom platforms, or do you have a channel specific pricing strategy?
That's a can of worms. No, as a founder, and the ethical thing to do always is to have fair pricing and let the consumer choose which platform they want to buy from. But I think we do a mix and match of strategies. While broadly at a blended level, the pricing is very, very similar across all platforms. But let's say once in a while we will run a deal on a particular SKU on a Zepto. Once in a while, we'll run a steal deal on another SKU on Instamart. So I think these decisions are taken together with the platform, because even the SKU behavior is very, very different. But at a blended level or during BAU, like if it's not some festival or some occasion or a weekend, the pricing is almost similar.
And is there, you spoke about different platforms. Are there nuances? I'm sure there are a lot of nuances for each platform, but at a very high level, if you had to abstract, anything that founders should have in mind, top 3 platforms,
so the
comparing
top 3
and contrasting.
platforms, I have seen that Blinkit on one extreme has built a very, very efficient and a more mature consumer base. So the discovery or the trials and repeats happen purely on the basis of the product and not so much discount based. I feel on the other hand, let's say a Zepto or even a Big Basket today, for example, are kind of more discount heavy, more price sensitive. So the value discovery is not happening from the product, but through the pricing, right? So I think that's one thing which we have kind of seen and learned, and that's how we have our pricing strategies also. The second thing is, I think this people would also know is every platform has a very strong region they operate in. For example, Blinkit is very, very strong in the north. It has a lot of customers in the south. So the budget allocation and also the kind of promotions we run are kind of also split a bit, region wise. So we kind of always go very heavy in Blinkit in the north once the summer season will start, while Instamart is kind of very heavy in the south. But I think broadly, the behavior is similar across the top 3.
Okay. Last 2 questions, and let's go with this one. So the question is, for a new brand launching on QCom, do you suggest doing an exclusive partnership with one of the platforms?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think today there are. This used to be a strategy once upon a time, but I think today just the sheer number of dark stores and the sheer number of transacting users which you have on one particular platform is, you just can't ignore at least the top 3, right? So I think you should not go for that exclusive. Try to get the best deal as possible, but be present on all platforms.
Okay. And final question, it's a bit...
Unless, sorry, on that note, unless there is a supply constraint. So I will give one example. I will not name the brand, but a brand launched exclusively on one of the platforms. But of course, the narrative was different. But the real story was because the production was very limited and they could not, give supply to all platforms, which is why they first launched on one of the platforms and then as you build production capability, you kind of launch. But if that is not a constraint, then you should list in all platforms.
That's a very valid nuance, and some of our brands do exactly that for the production constraint reason. Final question. I think it's a bit personal. So there's a founder asking you whether there were any moments in your journey where there were health, personal setbacks that created doubts, about GoZero, and just got you thinking about whether you should go back to PNG. And how did you?
Thankfully, not Apsara, but PNG. No, I think that doubt came in the first 3 months itself, right? I think I was chatting with Hari and the VCs September, October onwards, and they got the term sheet in January. But I think what happened was we launched in monsoon, right? So ice cream is a very seasonal business. The like 50-60% revenue happens in the 4-5 months of summer. And we launched in July 22, which is like the worst month to launch ice creams, right? And the first 3 months was like July, August, September. Also, there was a lot of rain. So first 3 month revenue was abysmal, like absolutely, like can't even say what the numbers were. I think that point of time I really, and because I was just coming off the highs of opening 100 stores, scaling the family business, all bootstrap. So everybody was expecting that GoZero will be a hit from day one. Like, of course, maybe not take time to reach the scale of the family business, but it would not be so bad. Like first 3 months, I was like, really, thanks Hari for giving me the term sheet even despite those numbers. But I think that was the phase where I really thought whether I did the right choice. But I think I would not have gone back to PNG. I would have maybe done something else, because once a founder, always a founder.
Super. That's a great note to end the conversation. There are a few questions we've not been able to take because we are terribly out of time. Kiran, what's the best way people can reach you?
LinkedIn. I am super active on LinkedIn, and 99% of the messages are replied by me personally.
Super. So you know where to find him. And if you have any questions for us, the entire DSGCP team is also active on LinkedIn, not as much as Kiran, but you will receive a response. So thanks everyone for joining, and thank you, Kiran. This was fantastic.